Hi, I'm Brian with Titan Inspection Services. Today, I thought it'd be a good idea to show you guys what we do as home inspectors. So we're gonna inspect this home. Come on. Okay, so this house here is about a 4,200 square foot home in the Lake Fenwick area. So we're gonna start on the outside. We like to go around, take pictures as we go, kind of update people as we go through different elements of the home. So we're gonna look at everything from siding, windows, doors, gutters, roof, ventilation, topography, any of the garage, driveway, all that good stuff. So let's get started.
Okay, I'm just looking at the front door, seeing how it's looking. We're gonna check the soffits. We've got natural wood soffits. We're gonna report that so we can make sure they stay protected and stained. And just gonna test the doorbell here. Sounds good. And looking for any imperfections in the siding and trim work.
Okay. We're gonna go in this way and look at the windows.
And the windows got a broken seal in the middle here. Screens are looking good. Okay, the driveway looks good. Maybe we want to pressure wash and get that sealed. Flange looks good. I'm gonna say we want to stain these natural wood soffits down here.
Yep.
We've got hardy shingle siding.
So we're just taking pictures of everything that's good, everything that's maybe not so good. Oh, look at that. What about that?
We got a missing post cap.
So we want just these to be attached so they don't get lost.
We've got a damaged board here.
Okay. Composites don't last forever.
Yeah.
They last some period of time, but it looks like it's in pretty good shape actually.
I see another blown seal on the window.
We're just coming around here on the side of the house and we see this alarm. This appears to be a septic tank alarm. We're gonna verify on county records that this house is in fact on septic, but these are typically what this is. And then I see we have an AC unit here, so we're gonna check this out. We want vegetation kept away from the AC units. All the fins here have some mildew and algae on them, so we wanna get that cleaned up. And you can service these at the same time as you service your furnace.
Okay, we also like to look at topography and how that might interact with the home. So in this case, this is like a stepped property, and then the house is like set down in here. But all this topography here, what we don't want is too steep a slope. So if you look up here, we got these big tall trees. We got this underbrush, blackberries, ferns, all that good stuff. Well, obviously you want all that. But sometimes we'll find that people did some clearing. Sometimes we'll find that we've had a lot of water or issues like that. We can see erosion, so we can see that the actual hillside probably isn't holding up the way that it's supposed to. But it's important for us to walk the property, take a look around, understand the topography, understand where the water is coming from, maybe even from a neighboring property, and give people some advice on how to either manage it or whether it's having an adverse effect on the house. And in this case, there's also things like a rockery. And sometimes people will come in and they'll build rockeries and they'll build them too tall, and they're not designed to be that tall. So usually about 4.5 feet tall is a non-engineered wall, and then anything above that would be an engineered wall. So if we see something that looks like somebody came in and did it after the fact, now it's a question of, did you do it right? Did you get the proper permits? Did you get a civil engineer out here? Did you test the soils? All that good stuff. So if we find any of that information, we might tell people about that so that people can understand whether it was done right, whether or not it's gonna hold up, whether or not the materials and stuff that they use all works or not. In this case here, it's been here for a while. I think it's pretty good. Okay, so here we're gonna use this super duper camera here, and we're gonna run it down a sewer line. This happens to have an outside clean out. So right here, we took the cap off. This camera here has got a light on the end of it. So what we do is we like to turn the water on inside, and we like to actually run the camera down and tell people what we see as we go. So this has about a 4-foot rise, and then we come inside of the line, and then we just work the camera down the actual sewer line until we get to the sewer main or something like that. So this is going around a corner, and it's got a little bit of something on the lens. So sewer scopes, I think, are a really critical component of the house. I don't care if it's a new house, if it's kind of a middle-aged home, or if it's a really old house. We see blockages, we see breaks, we see offsets. There's so much information. These cameras here, They are about $9,000 now. The point is this. I think it's a good verification of what you have for a sewer line, and if you can do it, I always think it's a good idea. But I also think that there's people out there that don't totally understand everything that goes into it and why it's important. So I thought, you know what, why don't I just do a little video, show you what we do, and then I'll show you some examples of the types of things that we see out there, and then you guys will be able to make a decision for yourself as to whether or not you feel it's important for you. Okay, so now we're gonna come in the house and take a look at everything around here. So we'll look at everything from walls, possible stress cracks, things like that, flooring, trim, doors, all the mechanical stuff, heating, electrical. We'll also go up in the attic down in the crawl space. We want to kind of give everybody a in its current state feel of the house. So today we're just going to be going around here and you can see us and what we do, how we work our way around a house, and the types of pictures we take, the information we're trying to get from a house for you guys. So when we're in the kitchen, what we're trying to do is create a real life effect. So what Emmett's doing is turning the water on. We like to run it for a while. There's 3 things that we'd like to figure out while we're running it a while. We'd like to figure out 1, how much hot water we get. 2, can we create a backup effect or something like that? And then number 3, is there any type of leaks or anything that we can find maybe down in the crawl space or something when we go down there at the end. We also like to test all the appliances to make sure that everything's working the way it's supposed to. We're also looking around at other things like the countertops, the backsplash, how these doors, if they're soft close or if they're normal, the trim, the lineup or the configuration, like this is a little bit lower than this one. So we'll try to give them information, or you guys information, sorry, in regards to whether or not we need things like silicone bumpers and stuff like that. Also looking for things like GFCIs and ventilation, hood, all that good stuff. So when we turn the water on, it takes a while for the heat to come. So now we got warm water now, so we want to make sure we're getting hot water in the house. We also then, if the water's warm here, we're got a better chance of getting hot water here in our dishwasher as well. Emmett's going to be checking that downdraft, and I'll go look and see if it's actually blowing outside. Okay, so what we want to do is make sure that this here vent that's coming out the side is actually terminating outside. And so over here, we've got a downdraft that comes down into the crawl space and comes over here and terminates to the outside. And that means it's working good. That's what we want to see. Also, this happens to be kind of a higher end home, so we'll have things like a toe kick for a vacuum. These are kind of cool, actually. So what you can do is you can sweep your dust or anything that's on the floor, you put it over here, sucks all the debris down there. It's pretty cool. And it's also an interior vac system for these higher end homes. There's little hidden things that we'll also look for as home inspectors, things like under here. So this is a pre-finished hand-scraped hardwood floor. This is a pinless moisture meter. So what we can do is put it on hardwood, take a look and see, and we're running at about 3.5%, which means that the floor is really dry. So this is something that happened in the past. It's not something we're super worried about. It's just a blemish now, and we'll note it, we'll take a picture of it. So Emma, you can see he's testing everything from the temperature in the fridge to I think it's the vegetable drawer there, and then the freezer, and then he's also testing for the ice and water dispenser. I'm surprised how many times we test the ice and water dispenser and it doesn't work the way we thought it was gonna work. You find that as well, Emmett?
All the time. People don't connect water lines. People disconnect them, never reconnect them in the first place. People don't run them to the fridge. So it's not uncommon that we don't get it, but this one's working, both ice and water.
Okay, so I'm gonna head over here and take care of the family room over here, and Emmett, he's gonna head outside and drone the roof now.
All right, we're gonna step outside here, get our drone in the air to get a good look at this roof. Anytime we have roofs that are tall, too steep, slippery conditions, we'll use our drone to get a good look at the roof. We'll be up in the air, we'll be able to see the shingles. We'll be looking for any damage, any missing shingles, checking out the roof vents, flashing, gutters, skylights, and any debris, moss, things like that might be on the roof. So we'll put this in the air and get a good look. All right, we're getting a look at the shingles here. We're gonna get kind of a view around the whole roof here. We're gonna be checking for roof vents, debris in the gutters, debris on the roof. We'll be kind of getting the layout of the house too. This will help us to figure out any problem areas in terms of leaks. If we have bathroom fans connected, this will help us get a layout of the roof. We're gonna come down, get kind of a look down into the gutters here. You can see they got some debris in them. Got a plumbing vent here. Looking for sealant on those, looking for proper connections to the roof. Same with the roof vents there. Come up here, looking for venting across the ridge of the roof. So we're either looking for square vents or a ridge vent. A couple skylights on the roof here. These can be prone to leaking, so we'll make sure we take an extra good look at these, and also a look at them from the inside will give us more info on leaks.
Emmett's gonna take you guys out in the garage. A lot of times we'll have panels in the garage, but in this case here, I think there's actually a vac system out there. We can check the garage doors and stuff like that.
Cool, sounds good. Checking our garage door here. We want to make sure that our garage auto closes. That's a fire safety concern, so if there's a fire in the garage, this is designed to buy you about 20 minutes of time. Got some normal cracks in the slab here, which is common as the concrete shrinks and as it kind of settles over time. Very common, anything less than about a 1/4 inch in width. Not a much concern when it comes to cracking in concrete. Get a look at the garage door here. So here we're gonna check our pressure sensor. See that when we have applied pressure, it goes back up. We'll also check that our motion sensor is walking. So when the kids are out here, they leave their bike in the way. Garage door hits the bike, goes back up. Kids are outside, kid walks under the garage door, picks up the motion, garage door goes back up. Along with the door being fire rated, we're also gonna be looking for a fire wall. So any wall between the garage and the living space should be fire rated. So you'll see they've actually finished off this whole garage here to create a fully usable space down here and increase safety.
So this is some of that engineered hardwood that was up in the kitchen. And so we like to tell people that, hey, don't throw this stuff away. And the reason that that's important is if they wanted to make those repairs, one, they'd know the brand and where they might be able to buy it, but then two, they've got some here that they could use. Paint's the same way, because they've got different sheens and grades of paint. So having these old cans, even though it seems like a lot of wasted stuff, we like to tell people, hey, hang on to that stuff, or at least take the information off the can. So I like to tell them, hey, you can find out the brand, you can find out what color, the sheen, all that good stuff. So these are all good pieces of information that we like to share with everybody so that they understand what they have in a house. And it's good because if they need to do stuff on their house, they can use some of this. I like that.
We're gonna head to this door over here. This door heads back inside. So we have the automatic close springs, but these springs are not set correctly, so this door is not closing itself. So this would actually be a fire safety concern on this door here. Just gonna make our way into this little bar area down here. It's gonna be similar to the kitchen where we'll get some of the appliances running and be able to give things time to leak and to show themselves. Check for GFCI plugs. We should have GFCI plugs anywhere within 6 inches, or excuse me, 6 feet of the water. And we can see this plug, it's not working and it's not resetting. So this GFCI plug is broken.
And then we like to check plugs, GFCIs, all that good stuff as well. And this one here looks like this one's not working, even though it looks pretty. So we'll tell them about that as well. All right. Oh, one more thing also, we'll test these fans and we want to make sure that these fans are working, lights are working, that kind of stuff. Make sure everything's going to the outside. All right, I think we're good in here. So a couple other little things in terms of our inspection that might be helpful. A lot of times we come with one inspector, we don't come with two. If we have two, we might be training or something like that. So one person's gonna be working their way around the outside and then working their way around the inside as well. Here in the entry, the types of things we're looking for is windows, trim, the quality of paint. In this case here, this has a broken seal on it. Now, when you see a window like this is a vinyl window and it has a broken seal, all it really means is that there's gas that's still inside of the two panels of this one and this one, but the one in between, it's broken down. You can kind of see a little bit of a haze in there. But what does that mean? Well, we have a perfectly good wall when they built this house. This probably got R19 insulation, which is a 2x6 wall. And then we cut this nice big fancy hole in here, and we put this window in, and it goes from R19 down to about R2, 2.5. If it gets a broken seal, it goes from R19 down to 2.5, and then it goes that much further down to an R1. Why is that significant? A lot of people will come and try to talk you into a new window. What I would say is this: if you had blinds or something like this, or if it was in a main sight line, I would recommend that you may consider want to look into getting this piece of glass with the grid in it replaced. But you don't have to. Just remember, it's still a window. So the window's kind of meant to bring in the natural lighting and all that. It's not super energy efficient. It's just a window. So let's not make too much of it. Here, we'll check for the gas logs. And you guys didn't see it, but I came in here and I was checking under here to see if the gas fuel line was on. There's a shut off for safety over there. The pilot's on, all that good stuff. And then we can come in here and test. We'll note if the glass needs to be cleaned or something like that. And we checked on the outside to see that it was properly venting. We'll also look around in terms of the trim around here. If this has a fan on it, we'll let it run for a minute and we'll actually see if that fan's working. Another thing that we'll do, we'll take a look like up here. We'll see if there's some stress cracks. And if we see stress cracks, we'll try to determine whether or not there's something that might be structurally an issue, or if it's just a stress crack and the house dried out over time. Probably most of the time it's just that the house dried out over time, but that's about it. So for me, I find that if it's noteworthy enough for you to do something, we'll tell you. And if we feel like it's just some drywall repairs, we'll tell you that as well. Now, we're not necessarily checking things like furniture, but we're trying to protect all this stuff because obviously it's worth money. We're checking all of our plugs. We're checking our drywall. I like to use a flashlight on a wall. I think that it does help to kind of show if we have issues. So by running it down so I can kind of see over here, and I would note things like that. Same thing in the kitchen. We're gonna check all the cabinets and things like that, see if everything's opening and closing correctly. Sometimes they're off the tracks, things like that. And again, I think another thing that's really important to me, and I know when I'm training our inspectors, is this is somebody else's home. So sometimes I think as buyers, we might want a home inspector to be a little more invasive, and we try to as much as we can. And then we also don't want to just bang stuff around, or if there's things like unmentionables or whatever in closets and stuff, we're not here to fixate on any of that kind of stuff. We're just here to help people understand what the current condition of the house is and give them some photos, give them a report, give them information that they can have a good conversation with their real estate professional. Okay, so all the bedrooms are kind of basic. Mainly we're looking at doors. We're looking at if everything's aligned. We're looking at the trim, we're looking at the walls and ceilings. And then we've got smoke detectors that we might use our little stendo tool there to check that out. We want to see if all of our plugs and everything are good. So we'll check every plug we can see. They say in the standards of practice a representative sample, but I always feel like if I could see it, I'll put a plug tester in there. We want to see if these windows are operational. We also want to see if these windows meet egress requirements. All it really means is so we can have kids that can get out in the case of a fire and have firemen get in the case of a fire. So if we see that there's one-offs, usually remodels and stuff like that, they might have put the wrong kind of window in or something like that. We'll look at closet kits and things like that. We're not necessarily interested in anything that's in there, and we're not gonna move any furniture around if it was filled with a lot of stuff, but we're gonna do our best to kind of work around whatever we see inside the rooms. So we'll come in here, we're gonna check obviously all the plumbing, all the things that people would normally work with living in their home. So if these are really tight, we'll ask for them to be greased or something like that. We'll come in and check all of our cabinets, see if these are all operating. They've got safety little controls there for the kids. We'll check for around the perimeter, all that good stuff, checking for light fixtures, checking the pocket doors, see if everything's in good shape on both sides, if it's functioning okay. We'll check also for our toilets. We want to see if these are actually firm, so I'm rubbing my leg against it and see if I can push it and move it at all. We're looking for fans, things like that. So this has a whole house ventilation and air recirculation system. So pretty high-tech stuff here. We don't normally see that in homes, but in this case here, it's nice. We're checking obviously switching and things like that, seeing if everything's working correctly. Checking the doors for function, looking at the perimeter all the way around, looking for any of the joints for drywall tape, stoppers, bumpers, windows, if we get proper function in them all that good stuff. The tubs, we don't do like what they do in a new construction all the time, where we would come in here and fill the tub up or something like that. Usually the builder does that, but we are checking for function. Want to see if everything's firm. Want to see if our actual drain stopper is working, all that good stuff. And look at our water flow as well. Sometimes we'll find that there's some restrictors, and so it takes a long time to fill up the tub. We're also looking for whether or not it's produced in hot water and cold water. And then we're looking around the perimeter for things like cracks, stuff like that. And then we'll come in here and we'll look at our shower as well. So all we're trying to do is see form, function. Does it need some sanded caulk around the perimeter? Is the pan or the base there in good shape? Do our doors line up? Are we sealed around the perimeter? Do we have any issues with our trim and things like that? We're looking both for hot and cold here as well. And again, if our control is operating correctly, if it's too tight or something like that. And again, these are areas that, remember, this is somebody else's home. This happens to be a vacant home. But when we're in somebody else's home, we want to obviously be careful and keep things closed and be respectful of their space. So in this case here, this is a master. Those are the types of things we're going to check out when we're in here. Okay, laundry rooms. So washers and dryers, they come in all shapes and sizes and different conditions as well. These are obviously pretty nice fancy ones here. We'd like to run these if we can and get them in a short cycle. We actually did it while we were here and we were doing the actual inspection. But when we're looking at these, we want to see if they fill up with water. We want to see if they drain properly. We want to check the drain assembly itself. And we also want to make sure that we got proper ventilation and all that kind of stuff. And if we've got little plug covers and things like that, we'll call that. But overall, what we're trying to see is we're trying to see if the units are what we think they are. Are they good working units? Are they units that we need to haul off? If there's a concern or things aren't really working well together or they don't have ventilation or something like that, we might tell people. Also, we want to make sure it doesn't have the rubber lines on the washing machine because those can kind of blow up and burst. And we're looking to make sure that the dryer vent's hooked up to the outside as well. All right. All right. So this here happens to have some HVAC stuff over here. And in this case here, what we're looking for is obviously the condition of the unit, how long it's been here, does it have a proper drain pan, is it properly vented if it's a natural gas one. We're trying to check the insulation, like this is a little bit smashed down, typical in an older home because everybody's starting to use it. So this heat pump system over here, we got everything from our little condensate trap to our refrigerant lines, to our ductwork for our return air, and then our filter is down in the ceiling. We're looking to see if we have any type of moisture issues. And obviously they've got a couple buckets up here, maybe when they were servicing or something like that. We're looking to make sure everything's properly insulated and that everything is working the way it's supposed to. We're not necessarily doing the same thing that an HVAC company would do. That's a more invasive process. We're just checking for form and function. And if we see something that's out of line, we're gonna tell you guys and say, hey, you need to get some further evaluation with people that are experts and have even more specialized tools in this arena. There's also, let's see if I can get over to it. There's also this air circulation system here. So it's right over here. And you can't totally see it, but so this Fantech system is pretty expensive, and it's basically taking outside air, inside air, filtering it, recirculating it. You don't normally see this in houses, but it's a real nice thing to have. We also want to look around and see what kind of venting we have up here at the ridge and also at the base at the soffit. We want to make sure that all our vents are hooked up. We want to make sure that our insulation's all in good shape. Make sure we got a workstation up here if we need it. Make sure that all of our condensate lines and everything's all taken care of. So, long story short, attics are a really critical area. I think it's almost sometimes better to look up in an attic and find roof leaks, things like that. I also think that attics are a great place for us to understand, how's this house breathing? Is it doing a good job? Is it doing a so-so job? Is it doing a bad job? And then not every attic's, freakishly bad. I mean, you see a little discoloration here and there. Sometimes it is a big situation. But I think the bottom line is this: we need to get up in there in the attic, take a look around, try to understand what type of equipment we have, if everything was installed in a good way, it's gonna function. And if we need to work on things like balancing the system or something like that, which this system would have, we'll take a look at those types of things too. But overall, getting into the attic, getting into the crawl space, I think are critical. This happens to be one that we can get up in, we can navigate around here somewhat, and I think the stuff up here is actually in pretty good shape. All right. This is actually a waterproof membrane deck. So this is just laid on top. And so you can see how it's just kind of loose here. They've welded the seam. This has a little bit of an overlap. I think it's okay. We'd like to see how much it's going up here and if we have fall on the deck. So looking at it with the level, you like that level, Liz?
That level isn't doing anything.
That thing is doing great.
It's so small.
It's a pretty little orange level. Okay, looking around the windows as well. Want to see any areas that we might have moisture intrusion or something like that. I like to key on around where these weep holes are, make sure that we're not leaking anywhere inside there as well. This is actually a hardy type product here. These are actual shingles. I like that. I like these columns. You like these columns, Liz?
Yeah, I like them when they're caulked.
Yeah, and they're raised up. So that's good too. I wouldn't even mind this to be raised up a little bit so that it actually can allow the debris under there.
I do. I have a question.
Yeah.
This right here, what do you think of this here on the door?
So this is actually just the sealant that they put on there, and because it's getting so much heat, the heat that it gets starts to bleed out. So this could get to hundreds of degrees with the sun baking on it. So obviously we'd like it to be, you could scrape this off with a little putty knife there, if you will, and clean it up. And then also paint these regularly too, just to keep them in good care. And then also, I like to look at these little areas right here to make sure that, one, this is firm and solid and it's not disconnected here, but then all the way around here, make sure all that this is actually sealed up. This looks pretty good, although this flange is kind of tore up. So it's just an older door, it's an original door. Other than that, I'm not overly concerned with it. I like the stonework. I like the siding. Looks like they got some super duper security cameras. Here, all I can say on these columns here is that sometimes you can get something down inside of here, so I'd like to use a product called Quad Caulk, and I think it'll seal it all up good. And then the gutters, make sure it's clean. Make sure that our drip edge here, it's getting us out into the gutter. Make sure we got proper fall in the gutter, and we're good to go. Can you think of anything else, Liz?
I can't. You've done an excellent job.
Man, thank God. All right. I'm worried. I was worried for a minute, but now I feel better. So home inspections as a whole, I think it's an important function. Obviously, we're home inspectors, but the key to it, I think, is this. You want to get a good, informed insight on the condition of a home. And in this case here, this is kind of a late 80s, early 90s type home. This is a home that it's got some pretty nice finishes because it's a larger custom home, but they come in all shapes and sizes. You got old crusty homes that are turn of the century, and we need to look at them that way. I think looking at an old home and not taking that into consideration and thinking of everything that's current code, I don't think that's always fair to an old home like that. But I think it's important to have that dialogue. I also think that from a home inspector standpoint, it's really important that we get you lots of pictures. So when we take pictures, we try to get a picture of everything that we see and we put it all in a report. We take probably 250 plus pictures. We try to get you a report. It's got 3 colors, blue, orange, and red. Blue is an observation, orange is a recommendation, red's a hazard. All that information, we want you guys to be able to digest it and then have a conversation with your real estate agent. When you have a conversation with your real estate agent, I always feel like it just depends on how you're buying the house. Are you paying a premium for it? Are you buying it at market rate? Or are you buying it at a bargain? The reason why is if you're paying a premium for it, you might have a higher expectation of the things that we bring up and possibly asking for someone to maybe even take care of that or a concession. Most people don't buy houses at that level. We usually buy them at the next level down, which is at market rate. The buying it at a bargain is real simple to me. It's I bought it at X, I gotta put Y into it, and it's still worth Z. And that means that you get that delta. Now, whenever you're doing something on a house, I always recommend that you run it by your real estate agent as well. And the reason why is that we want to stay in the sweet spot in terms of the things that are done on a home. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that if we go and do things too nice on a home, in some instances when we do that, it doesn't mean that somebody's going to give us that money that we paid for that to be done. Same thing on the lower end. If we do things that are not nice enough on a home like this, it might not bode well for you when you go to sell the home. So my recommendation is always to run everything by your real estate agent and allow them to give you some advice. Also, those guys are very neutral. They're not out there trying to sell you something. So they're not a heating contractor trying to do X or Y. They're not a roofer that's trying to talk you out of your roof early. They're not a plumber that's trying to find work or whatever it might be. Me, I think as a home inspector, it's our job to help you understand this house in its current condition, give you a good, clear report, and allow you to have a conversation with your real estate agent. And that's about what we do. We don't tear stuff apart. If we feel like you need to get a more invasive look at things, we'll tell you that. But as a home inspector, we're here to look at it in its current condition without digging too much into it, because we do know that it's somebody else's home, and we're going to try to respect their home when we're there. That's about it.